Hi, I'm Kelly Paul, and I'm here with Todd Welch, our Chief Operating Officer, and Steve Manns, our SVP of Performance Management. We're going to talk a little bit about our transition to work at home and the recent COVID-19 pandemic. So Todd, let's kick it off. Why don't you talk a little bit about the process of converting all of our agents to a work at home environment?
Sure. So we started our work at home planning actually early in 2018. We brought on subject matter experts and began building our teams and kind of our infrastructure, almost a year and a half ago. Constructed remote training, recruiting, and hiring models, as well as kind of planning that pivot from brick and mortar to work at home from systemic and operations management perspectives as well. When the time came, we were ready to turn on a dime and get up and running very quickly with agents working from home, both domestically and nearshore, both on the recovery side of our business and on the outsourcing side. And depending on client requirements, we were able to satisfy those both in the kind of bring your own device arena as well as supplied device environments across a wide range of client requirements during that time. So, and all the testing in the world is great, but until you actually get in the real world and in a production environment, you can't be 100% sure what's going to happen until you've worked all the bugs out. And luckily our teams did a great job in flipping from brick and mortar to work at home with very little downtime. So it was impressive to see really how the teams came together and how all the planning paid off and what ended up being a very smooth transition.
And Steve, from a strategy standpoint, what did you and your team have to do to prepare for the shift?
So first and foremost, the adapting to the work at home structure changes our staffing, our capacity, our ability to take inbound calls and make outbound calls. At some point, we thought we might even have to stop dialing completely. So we were just kind of prepared for anything, but ultimately making sure we had work at home up and running and being able to handle all of our clients' inbound calls without putting anybody on long holds was our top priority at first. The second point I'd like to make is that strategically, we've been really focused on our virtual agent, Eva, and she started taking payments in Q2, which really helped us capitalize on our change in capacity. And we're going to continue to prioritize and even put additional task forces in place to improve that online experience and that self-servicing options.
Todd, can you talk a little bit about how you coached your management staff to now be responsible for a team of agents without that physical presence to support them?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely challenges to working at home, from a management perspective. And most of our frontline recovery management, admittedly, really, we're hired to be in brick and mortar. So those leaders have a skill set that help them succeed there on site, not necessarily work at home. That being said, it's kind of the same thing regardless of where you are. It's establishing expectations, that's critical, and then deriving those expectations through KPIs, essentially, your key performance metrics. And then, communication is the key. We utilize Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and some other video chat services that, give our management the ability to, see the agents and pick up on some of those physical cues that you don't necessarily get working remotely, but you have those in brick and mortar. So being able to kind of see the facial expressions and how the agents are responding that way. Beginning of shift meetings are vital to set the tone for the day, just as they're in a physical office. And then, maintaining that engagement, essentially, that's the hard part remotely. You lose a little bit of that when you work remote. And so we continue to run contests. At times we'll have food delivered to our agents, send gift cards, just anything that we can do to keep up that team morale. A lot of the same things we do in the brick and mortar, just have a slight tweak to them in the work at home environment, and they work similarly as well.
Steve, why don't you talk about how the stimulus money has impacted our collections so far this year?
So ultimately, our hypothesis is that consumers are at home paying attention to things that they weren't paying attention to before, or as close of attention as they were before to overdue bills and things of that nature. So we think that limited space to spend money, and combined with the fact that they're paying attention to things like overdue debts, that money is making its way back into the economy through paying off debts. Some of the research shows that upwards of 30 or 40% of consumers, what they're doing with their stimulus money is paying off old debts. So that stimulus has not slowed down into Q3. We're kicking off Q3 with a nice start, and we think that that'll continue as long as stimulus money continues.
Todd, do you see work from home being a permanent component of our strategy going forward?
Yeah, we definitely see work at home being part of the call center landscape going forward. It's impossible really to know when and how a portion of the business moves back to brick and mortar, but there's definitely a subset of employees, who prefer and even perform better there. That being said, we're going to continue to utilize work at home to its fullest capacity, based on it, our clients allowing us to and compliance allowing us to. The benefits we've seen, working at home, reduced absenteeism, reduced attrition, really as a result of the agent's ability to be more flexible with their schedule. And those have largely outweighed those characteristics of having the agents wholly on site. So while work at home is still somewhat in its infancy on the recovery side of the business, our outsourcing side of the business has been doing it, for a longer period of time. And as we see more enhancements, as Steve pointed out, in compliance tools, data security, and remote management, that's going to further secure work at home as a permanent staple in the industry.
Do either of you have any final closing thoughts that you wanted to add?
I would just say, we have been planning for work at home for quite some time. Having it kind of thrust upon us, it felt like at the last minute, being well prepared, for that inevitability, put us in a really good position. And again, nice to see that all of that planning that we had done was fruitful in this endeavor and really allowing us to pivot to work at home, very seamlessly. And numerous clients have told us how, what a phenomenal job we did in getting to that, really not losing any competitive edge while moving to work at home and having virtually no downtime in that transition. I'll
also add that having a roadmap that's tech forward and trying to create a better customer experience for those who want to self-service, the timing really paid off for us in our ability to create an online experience, whether that be through chat or self-servicing online. And we really look forward to continuing to prioritize those items here throughout the rest of 2020.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for sharing some of your thoughts. I appreciate you taking the time and look forward to seeing how the rest of the year pans out.
Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks.